Good morning. Good morning. It is NFL Sunday, week one. We made it. I don't know about you guys. I couldn't sleep last night. I was tossing and turning. I woke up at 1:30 a.m. and had a influx of DMs from Jordan Schultz saying who is expected and who isn't expected to play. And I start retweeting this out, and I'm like, wait, what am I doing? Everybody's sleeping, unless you guys are degenerates like me, and we're also checking injury reports at 1:32 in the morning. Adam, I know you were. Alfredo, I'm sure
Yeah.
you were too. We are
No, man,
amped
I
up.
was vibing after my FIU Panthers won last night. I was at the game. It was great.
All right, let's talk about things that people care about in that FIU football today.
Whoa, easy. The home of
Let's
T.Y.
go ahead and
Hilton.
dive in. We do have a lot of official word on some players today. So first of all, let's go through the guys that are active, and we are joined. Of course, I am Dave Kluge, joined here as well with Alfredo Brown, and then Adam Hutchison, and we are going to be looking at some of these active players and kind of what we expect today. So. Adam, start us off with the first two. Arizona Cardinals, we've got Marquise Brown, who was kind of a surprise limited participant in practice throughout the week. And then Zach Ertz, who, I mean, I got to be honest, a couple of months ago, I didn't think there was any chance we'd see Zach Ertz ready for week one. But what do you expect from both of these guys today? Marquise Brown, Zach Ertz, are they going to be playing full? What are you expecting from these guys?
So we got word right before the show started that Marquise Brown and Zach Ertz are both going to play. Marquise Brown, was limited with the ankle injury. We'll talk about ankle injuries with wide receivers a little bit later on the show with some of the other players. Typically, it's not good when we look at historical comps in terms of their fantasy production. But with Marquise Brown and the Arizona Cardinals situation, I think if you have him, depending on your team, he's definitely in flex consideration for me because I just see him having a healthy volume. Zach Ertz is somebody, to be honest with you, like you said, I wasn't too high on coming into the season, coming off of that ACL tear. But given the tight end landscape that we're facing right now with some of these late scratches, I think it definitely depends on your league size. But he'd be probably somebody I would be staying away until I see it. I want to see what Zach Ertz looks like coming off that ACL tear.
Yeah, you got to think that they want to get Zach Ertz out there healthy so they can say, look, Zach Ertz is healthy. Come trade for him, because he does not make any sense in the current roster construction that they have there in Arizona. The other guy I want to talk about is George Kittle, officially active as well. Are we expecting any sort of limitations for George Kittle today, Adam?
So George Kittle is one of those guys that he plays through injury and he does it pretty well. I think there's a little bit of a heightened re-injury risk when we talk about any type of soft tissue injury, specifically groin strains, when we're looking at the tight end position. Re-injury rate can be a little bit higher, but again, and you'll hear me talk about it a couple of times when we're talking about tight ends this week, I don't think you can afford to be too picky depending on what's on your waiver wire. We got some other high-profile tight ends out. So I think if you're somebody that invested a draft pick in George Kittle, got to play him.
Yeah. All right. Completely with you on that. And then let's lump these two together. We've got two aging wide receivers, Odell Beckham and Adam Thielen, both kind of last minute declared active here. Are you expecting limitations for either of these guys? Are they going to be a full go? Do they even belong in fantasy lineups right now? I think you can kind of answer all these questions pretty easily.
Yeah. It depends on the league size, obviously. Some deeper leagues, I mean, obviously, you might have some slim pickings. When we're talking about the wide receiver position with the ankle injury, first game back, compared to their healthy average, on average, they see about a 22% decline in fantasy production. That's pretty significant when we're talking about guys like Adam Thielen and Odell Beckham, which are kind of fringy flex plays. So I'd be excited about Rashad Bateman. I'd be excited about Zay Flowers when we're talking about Baltimore. I'd be excited about Isaiah Likely as we get to another guy, not to get too far ahead of ourselves, but Mark Andrews was just ruled out as we were live streaming the show here. And then when we're talking about guys in Carolina, obviously there's a lot of excitement about the rookie wide receiver, Jonathan Mingo, and some other passing options. But again, unless you're in a super deep league, I think I'd be staying away from Adam Thielen and Odell Beckham Jr. this week.
Completely agree with all that. Now let's go through the guys that are officially out this week, just so you are prepared. Make sure you get these guys out of your lineups. Cooper Kupp, Christian Watson, DJ Chark, John Mechie, Devon A-Chain, Teron Armstead, although that isn't going to be somebody that you're plugging into your fantasy lineup, could impact the rushing game a little bit for Miami. And then Mark Andrews, we just got word that Cordero Patterson isn't playing as well. And Zach Moss is going to be out, so fire up your Evan Hull and your Deion Jackson as got to start somebody in the flex. All right, So I think that covers it. We do have a lot of other guys that are late games that are still expected or not expected to play. We'll dive into them a little bit later in the show. If we get any news on these guys while we are alive, feel free to drop it in the chat. We're looking at Jerry Jeudy, Devontae Parker, Ken Walker, Romeo Doubs, Ramondre Stevenson, Darren Waller, and Breece Hall. If any news breaks within the next 30, 45 minutes, we will try to break that live on here. But let's go ahead and start it off with I Am Ian's Cat. Should I start Isaiah Likely or any other tight end on waivers? Isaiah Likely is going to be a guy that is going to be popping up a ton in today's show here. You know, with Mark Andrews out, Isaiah Likely smashed last year in those limited opportunities. Alfredo, why don't you talk to me a little bit about Isaiah Likely? I mean, looking at how bleak the landscape is right now, he slots in as my tight end 6.
Yeah, I'm a little bit lower on him still. I just that's me remaining conservative. I've got him at tight end 10 right now, just because it's hard for me to put him over guys like Freiermuth. And I'm still just staring at my rankings right now. Freiermuth and Njoku and Pitts, and I think we still don't know what we're going to see with this Ravens offense. We don't know if Odell Beckham Jr. is in or out. We don't know how much of a part of the game plan Rashad Bateman is going to be, and I think what we are all expecting is that the Baltimore Ravens are just going to boat race the Houston Texans, and I don't know. This might be one of those games where it turns into a really slow ball control game with a lot more running than we expect. So I do think Isaiah Likely is a very easily startable tight end, but I still have him pretty conservatively ranked as my tight end 10.
Adam, just because his name was brought up, are we expecting any limitations for Rashad Bateman today? Rashad Bateman didn't practice a ton this offseason, wasn't on the injury report, but as we've heard with J.K. Dobbins and Javonte Williams, there's some other guys who aren't on the injury report that we're expecting limited workloads from because of limitations in the preseason. Can we kind of anticipate that with Rashad Bateman today as well?
I really wouldn't think so. There's not a lot of data to support that. He's, had more than enough time to recover from that injury. When I was talking about Rashad Bateman this offseason, my concern was just being on his availability overall. I think he has a higher re-injury risk when we talk about just the likelihood of a wide receiver to play a full season, and we weight Rashad Bateman's foot injury into that. I think that's something that you should have can plan for this season with the waiver wire, and just making sure that if you're having Rashad Bateman, that's somebody that you rely on in your wide receiver or flex spot. Make sure you have some backup wide receivers, because I think there's a higher likelihood that later on in the season you might see him out for a couple games.
Yeah, Rashad Bateman feels like one of those ultimate kind of boom bust plays today. We know he's got the big play upside, but we don't know exactly what to expect. Let me just throw this out to you real quickly, Alfredo. Do you prefer Rashad Bateman or Zay Flowers this week? I have Zay Flowers slightly ahead of Bateman.
Yeah, I think that there's going to be a need to try to force feed the ball to Zay Flowers and get him comfortable. Whereas I think running backs, they try to ease them into the game plan. Wide receivers, you're almost forcing the ball to them so that they can get more acclimated with the routes and the game plan and everything going on. So it's not like a big difference between them, but I lean Zay Flowers with that.
All right. Now, if you're watching the show,
can I add Sorry, I was going to add a point to Alfredo, because I think he made a really good point. And I wanted to mention, most people that drafted J.K. Dobbins are probably starting him. But when we talk about wide receivers 2 years removed from ACL tear, I think there's a lot of optimism to have about J.K. Dobbins. I'd be really excited about putting him in my RB2 spot. I just wanted to add that little nugget there.
You know, I had J.K. Dobbins slotted in early in the week as my RB9, and then we got that report today that with him missing a lot of camp, they're going to try to ease him in. So I dropped him down to RB19, which still makes him an RB2 that you're, starting, but the upside is undeniable there. If you're watching the show on Twitter, I just want to say that we cannot read your comments. So hop over to the YouTube, Footballguys, youtube.com/Footballguys, fire away. We're going to start rapid fire working our way through these questions, and hit that like button if you're watching on YouTube to help some other people find the show as well. We got another question here from I Am Ian's Cat. 1 quarterback, 6-point touchdown. Are you starting Anthony Richardson or Sam Howell? I think if we all shout the same name on 3, we're all in agreement here. 1, 2, 3, Anthony Richardson.
Anthony Richardson. Oh, you did it way too fast, Dave. We got to work on the timing there, man.
All right, next question here from Justin Haynes, half PPR. Thoughts on Waller tight end issues? I picked up Everett. I have Keenan Allen. Or pick up Jake Ferguson as a potential wall-in filler. I'm leaning towards Everett here, but Adam, real quickly, give us your thoughts on Darren Waller since he's dealing with his hamstring.
Yeah, this is a tough one. So when we looked at last year, Darren Waller missed 10 weeks with a hamstring injury. Every time he popped up as questionable on the final injury report, he ended up missing a game. He was questionable this week, and he's actually active. I have Waller in a league and I'm playing him, but that's just because I'm risky and I like to roll the dice. I don't think Jake Ferguson is a bad option if there's like a late scratch for Darren Waller, but it sounds like he's going to suit up on Sunday night. I just don't think we can afford to be really picky this week with the tight end position. I think if you invested a high draft pick in one of these guys, I'd be starting them.
Yeah, and we're going to have a lot of tight end questions today. And our next question here with Andrew's out in a 10-team PPR. Should I pick up Gerald Everett, Irv Smith, Hayden Hurst, Luke Musgrave, Hunter Henry, Taysom Hill, Isaiah Likely, or someone else generally outside the top 15? I'm thinking Musgrave with Watson out and Dubs doubtful. Man, I can feel the pain in this comment right here because a lot of people are dealing with this same thing, missing Travis Kelce. I prefer out of this bunch, I do like Isaiah Likely for the upside. I know you're a little bit lower on him, Alfredo. Are you still taking any of these guys ahead of Likely, or is Likely your guy as well?
No, I mean, I'm still taking Isaiah Likely here. I have him as the tight end 10. Like, he is absolutely a startable tight end this week. A lot of these other guys are going to be replacement level. Gerald Everett is the next highest one that I have, and he's like tight end 14 for me on the week. So, yeah, it's going to be Likely, Gap, Everett, Big Gap, everyone else.
Exactly. I'm with you there, and I see Adam, you nodding along as well. PPR flex needed. Brian Robinson, Jackson Smith-Njigba, or DeAndre Swift. I've got Kupp, Andrews, and Christian Watson all out. What a bloodbath for week one. This is tough. You know, we always hear, like, week one, just draft the guys you drafted to be starters. Well, all those guys are hurt, so now we are already scouring the waiver wire here. Alfredo, I prefer Brian Robinson here. We talked about it a lot with Sig earlier in the week. We expect Washington to just run the snot out of the ball and beat Arizona down, and that works well for Brian Robinson. Do you like JSN or Swift ahead of Robinson this week?
No, full Robinson.
All righty.
Easy.
George Kittle or Kyle Pitts? I prefer Kittle here, kind of slightly. Adam, are we crazy for thinking Kittle here, even coming off the groin?
I'm okay with either. I think if you're more risk adverse, like the re-injury risk is obviously less for Kyle Pitts. So if you're somebody that just wants to play it safe and not have to like be gripping your remote the entire Sunday worrying about if George Kittle's, playing, or if you're seeing him limping and it's like, oh no, here we go again. I'm okay with Kyle Pitts, but I agree with what you're saying in terms of George Kittle, I should say, having the higher upside.
Alfredo, are we get a stamp of approval on this one?
Yeah, I'm exact same boat as Adam here.
And man, we want Pitts to be the guy. We really, really do. But this is kind of one of those, let's wait and see what this Falcons lineup looks like. Pitts is my tight end 9 this week. We know he's got outrageous upside, but really want to see what's Desmond Ridder can do with this offense. Start Mostert over Pierce or A.J. Dillon in a standard league. I just want to give a disclaimer right now. I am stupidly high on Dameon Pierce this week. From what we saw in the preseason, it seems like he is going to be a workhorse. He cracks my top 12 this week, which is significantly higher than consensus, but I am definitely taking Pierce ahead of Mostert and A.J. Dillon. Alfredo, what about you?
Yeah, so right now I've got Dameon Pierce as my running back 19 on the week, and Raheem Mostert is my start of the week, but I've actually got him ranked a little bit lower at running back 21 right now. So I'll still lean Dameon Pierce just because with that Miami offense, you never know really who's getting the carries, even though, Raheem Mostert has done well when he gets the opportunity. We're talking 15 touches, not 15 carries. Dameon Pierce is the kind of guy that can get 15 carries plus another 3 or 4 catches for Houston today. And man, if that Los Angeles Miami game becomes a shootout, they might just abandon the run altogether.
Yeah, I think you could slot Dameon Pearson for 20 touches easily. I mean, he's not going to come off the field much. Devin Singletary hasn't looked too great so far in the preseason, so I'm expecting Dameon Pierce to surprise a lot of people as a workhorse this year. 6-point passing touchdowns, Geno Smith or Kirk Cousins. These are all kind of those guys, Alfredo, we talked about all offseason, kind of the outside of the top tier, kind of looking at matchups every single week. I love Geno's matchup this week, and I know he's your start of the week, so I think we're probably in agreement on this one.
Yep, Geno QB 9, Kirk Cousins QB 11. They're essentially the same thing. You're choosing between chocolate or Nutella here. This is just like a slight difference in flavor. But let's go, Geno.
Harsh Patel is asking here, Marquise Brown or Antonio Gibson at the flex. This is a tough one. I'm going to have to take a look at my rankings because I don't know off the top of my head. I like Marquise Brown this week as a possible volume play. Antonio Gibson's got a great matchup. Adam, you want to talk a little bit about Marquise Brown and what we're expecting with the injury while I pull up my rankings here?
Yeah, so anytime we're talking about a wide receiver coming off an ankle injury, which those can be kind of serious, a little bit of a re-injury risk. We also see fantasy production take a little bit of a hit as well. I think if I was doing this, there's just enough uncertainty when we're talking about Antonio Gibson and how those snaps kind of unfold. I know they have a new offensive coordinator in Washington this year, but I want to see, excuse me, I would want to see how the split is between Brian Robinson and Antonio Gibson before I made that decision, just because Antonio Gibson has the opportunity to really hurt your lineup by not getting you any type of fantasy production. So even though on average wide receivers have about a 16% decline in fantasy production their first game back after an ankle injury, I would still be playing Marquise Brown because I think that volume can help him offset that decline in production.
That's how I've got it as well. And Alfredo, I see you nodding along. Do you prefer Gibson or Marquise Brown here?
Yeah, early in the week, I said, like, I don't want to start Marquise Brown if I don't have to, but this is one of those situations where it's in a vacuum between the two of them. Let's go with what I think could be more of the upside. Marquise Brown getting fed targets early and often in a game where I think they're going to trail a lot. And Josh Dobbs is just going to look for whoever could be his security blanket.
Cool. All right, and all agreement on that one. Harsh Patel also says, should I start Evan Ingram or Everett at tight end? Alfredo, who do you have?
Ingram.
Ingram for me as well, and I see the thumbs up from Adam. We got the stamp of approval there. Ricardo is asking, half PPR, I need to sit one. Drake London, T. Higgins, DJ Moore, Amari Cooper, or Jahan Dotson. As much as I love Jahan Dotson, I think he might be the start, or the sit out of this group.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with you there. I mean, I don't think you're sitting Higgins or Cooper in this. I think London and DJ Moore have the much higher ceilings. Dotson, you've got Terry McLaurin coming back off that turf toe injury, and even though he may not be at full speed, it's going to be just enough where if we're worried about how the running back splits are going to be, kind of also a little worried about the wide receiver splits.
Yep. Got another question here. Miles Sanders or James Conner? This is a tough one. I got to go to my rankings for this. I don't have it off the top of my head. Alfredo,
I'll help you out here. I'm going Miles Sanders. Just because of how many injuries there are in this Carolina offense. And it's the first game for a rookie quarterback. They are going to lean on the guys that will make things easy for him. It's going to be Miles Sanders, probably getting a ton of carries against this. Who are they playing? They're playing Atlanta, correct? I just want to make sure I got that right.
Yep.
Yeah. Going up against Atlanta Falcons defense. And he'll probably be getting some of those easy catches out of the backfield as well. So, yeah.
And I just checked. I've got Miles Sanders as my RB22 and James Conner as RB28. So I am with you on that one. So the tight end landscape looks pretty bleak this week. Is anybody playing Durham Smythe or Tyler Conklin? It is week 1, my dude. I'm sorry that you're in this spot. I prefer Conklin over Durham Smythe.
Yeah.
But is there anybody else available? You gotta,
dude. I don't even think the Dolphins are playing Durham Smythe. Let's put it that way. So yeah, just go Conklin if you have to.
Man,
good. I can't. If you're that desperate at tight end, like then just go all in and see if Taysom Hill is there because nobody ever rosters him, and there's always that one weird week at tight end where he goes off for like 2 touchdowns, especially this week where they're missing Kendra Miller and Alvin Kamara. It could be the week.
Taysom Hill could have that. Who was it? The Jerome Bettis stat line, like 5 carries for 1 yard and 3 touchdowns. We could be looking at that for Taysom Hill today. We got a question here from Munzie saying half PPR, Javonte Williams, Samaje Perine, or Zach Charbonnet. Man, this Denver backfield is getting really mucked up. I don't know how you guys are feeling about it, but they're saying Javonte Williams is going to be limited. All of a sudden, Jaleel McLaughlin, who we've been hearing a steady drumbeat about all offseason, is now supposed to see significant touches in week 1, which could impact Samaje Perine. We got Zach Charbonnet, who's expected to play, but dealing with this groin injury. I prefer Charbonnet out of the bunch, but it's that's a really tough one. Alfredo, where are you at?
So when it comes to something like this, I'm leaning likelihoods here, and the likelihood is Javonte Williams ending up with the most points out of these 3. And I think Samaje Perine is still going to play a big role in that Denver offense, but I think Javonte Williams, I hate to jump into narrative type stuff, but there's going to be some of those times where, listen, it could be, on the 1 yard line, the Denver Broncos, and they're like, all right, let's get Javonte in there, let him get a goal line carry, get some confidence, right? Get his swagger back. And I hate to kind of go down that path, but that's something that we could see happen. Whereas Zach Charbonnet, we don't know enough about Pete Carroll and the way he's going to split this backfield that Charbonnet could leave this game with like 3 or 4 carries, and that's it. Despite maybe being way more talented and needing to get more carries than that, Pete Carroll just kind of messes us all up when it comes to fantasy. So I lean Javonte.
That's a good point, and I do want Adam to weigh in here because Adam, I know you've done a lot of research on running backs in year 1 coming off the ACL. I see you ready to talk. Talk to us about Javonte.
I mean, I hate to disagree with Alfredo, but I'm probably going to go with Charbonnet. And there's a couple reasons. When we talk about running backs coming off ACL tear year one, efficiency across the board declines. The running backs that do really well have a healthy workload. We've seen reports this week that they're talking about putting Javonte Williams on a snap share. I agree with Alfredo's point that the highest touchdown upside probably goes to Javonte Williams, but I think you're going to see a three-headed committee here, which plays into that running back who come off ACL having substantially less fantasy production. Charbonnet involved in the passing game. Ken Walker coming off a groin injury this week, even though he is active. You could see all the passing work go to Zach Charbonnet. I think I would lean Zach Charbonnet here if I drafted him.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough one, and I'm going with Charbonnet ever so slightly for a lot of the reasons that you said. I just get so scared about these running backs coming off an ACL, especially early in the season. And what I saw from Javonte in the preseason, he looked kind of clunky, didn't have his burst, wasn't breaking through tackles like we saw in his rookie season. So I'll go Charbonnet here, but that is a tough question. Geno Smith or Daniel Jones? A lot of Geno Smith questions are going to be answered by both Alfredo and I with Geno Smith. You prefer him over Daniel Jones this week?
Yeah, Geno Smith. 100%. We should have put him on the thumbnail. What are we doing? We put DK Metcalf instead. Geno Smith.
Not even hurt. What are we doing
Geno
with DK
week.
Metcalf up there? It should have been Darren Waller, SEO.
Geno
right?
week. Geno.
Jackson Smith-Njigba, Nico Collins, or Jaden Reed. Jaden Reed's a name that probably is going to be popping up quite a bit with Romeo Doubs expected to be limited, Christian Watson out, and this is a tough one. I'm looking at my rankings, though, and I've got JSN above the other two. What about you, Alfredo?
I got it really close. I'm looking here at my rankings, and I've got Nico ahead of all three of them. But it's not good. It's wide receiver 46. So, I mean, you're kind of these are guys that are all very, very close together. So let's go with who probably has the biggest upside here. And I lean Nico. He's the wide receiver 1 for that team. Like we've talked about with rookies, they tend to lean on one player that can be their security blanket. And while I think Dameon Pierce is going to get a lot of the run, I think Nico Collins is going to be that guy that CJ Stroud is going to target heavily in this game going up against Baltimore, and that Baltimore secondary, not nearly as good as it's been in years past. They got a lot of injuries in that secondary. So the wide receivers may be better than we think for Houston this game.
So I got to say, my gut said JSN, but now I'm looking at my rankings. I got Nico Collins at wide receiver 48, Jackson Smith-Njigba at wide receiver 52, and Jalen Reed at wide receiver 54. So all of these guys are wildly close together, but I did give the slight edge to Nico Collins in my rankings for that projected volume. CJ Stroud seemed to really, really like him in the preseason. So I'm not sitting here banging the drum for Nico Collins by any means, but he does have the slight edge in my rankings. But really, all of these guys are just plug them in your lineup and pray type of plays this week. Barry is asking here what to expect from Denver. Samaje Perine versus Javonte Williams. We talked about this a little bit, but a good day for Sutton. It looks like Jerry Jeudy might not play. We don't have official confirmation on that. But yeah, Alfredo, talk to us about Courtland Sutton. He was your wide receiver start of the week this week.
Yeah, I really like Courtland Sutton. I've got him as my wide receiver 24 on this week, especially with Jerry Jeudy being out. We talk about him going up against the Las Vegas Raiders. The Raiders have one of the worst secondaries in the league, and Courtland Sutton has been pretty good over his last 4 games against the Las Vegas Raiders, regardless of quarterback, regardless of system. He's typically averaging around 15 fantasy points per game. Now you remove Jerry Jeudy from this, and you get a supposedly revamped and reestablished Russell Wilson, ready and excited to be a better quarterback, we hope, here in 2023. So, I mean, if we're talking about
cannot be worse.
Why would you say that? Why would you say that? Because it absolutely can. It always can get worse, David. But yeah, I think that you're looking at a guy who could be finishing out the day here with 6, 7, 8 targets and coming down with 5 receptions, and there's good touchdown potential with Courtland Sutton. And as you've been saying, Dave, we want Courtland Sutton to be Sean Payton's new slant boy in Denver. So, this could be the week.
180 targets. That's all we ask for. Dalvin Cook or Antonio Gibson in half PPR. I can't believe I'm saying this because I've kind of been a Dalvin Cook fader throughout the offseason. Efficiency was going down, all that stuff. But this is why they signed Dalvin Cook. He is going to be the guy early in the season until we see Breece Hall come back. So I have Dalvin Cook quite comfortably ahead of Antonio Gibson, even with that nice matchup. Adam, I see you nodding. Alfredo, I see you nodding. Can we move on to the next question?
Yeah, I just want to add before we do, there were reports already coming out this morning that Dalvin Cook is going to get the bulk of the carries for that New York Jets backfield. So I'm 100% staying away from Breece Hall and starting lineups. If you have him, I think you're better off just leaving him on your bench and trying to see who else you can put in there.
I'm going to completely cop out on this next question because these guys are back-to-back in my rankings, and I don't have a strong take. So, Alfredo, you help Bradley out here. Daniel Jones or Anthony Richardson?
You know what? And it's tough. Daniel Jones, as much as I like him, he historically does not do well against the Dallas Cowboys. And it's just like it's the weirdest thing. And it's one of those weird narratives. Whereas Anthony Richardson, the Colts could get behind really fast. This is the game where I think we see a boat race where the Jacksonville Jaguars could be up 35-7. And Anthony Richardson is going to be out there trying to make things happen. He's going to be running a lot. And he might throw up some prayers. He might give you some interceptions. Expect that to happen. But I think the running is going to be there. And I think that's what's going to buoy Anthony Richardson to be a top maybe 12 or 14 quarterback this week. Whereas I don't know that I see that necessarily for Daniel Jones.
Yep. Like I said, don't have a strong take on this one, but you make a lot of good points, and Anthony Richardson is going to get a lot of rushing opportunities. Somebody asked about Darren Waller. It does look like Darren Waller. I lost the comment, but eBird asked about Darren Waller. It does look like Waller is expected to play tonight, so there's obviously risk of re-injury, a 30-plus-year-old tight end with a history of hamstring issues, but if you got him, you play him. Got a question here. Kittle, Pitts, or Waller? Dynasty team where I am loaded. Wow.
You are. You are
out of the bunch, even with the concerns about the hamstring. I'm taking Darren Waller over both of these guys, just kind of by default. Even with the injury, Darren Waller is my tight end 1 this week.
Whoa there. I think I've got. Let me see, Darren Waller. I've got him.
I have him and Hopkins in the same tier.
Darren Waller. I've got him way down there at tight end too. So big difference.
Spicy. Yeah, if you got T.J. Hockenson, then you got a question. Standard league. Need 3 of these 4 running backs, so we're benching 1 of these 4. Breece Hall, Antonio Gibson, A.J. Dillon, or Zach Charbonnet. I got to look to the rankings because I know these guys are all close, and I don't know exactly how I have them. I have Breece Hall lowest out of the bunch, but I'll have to double-check here. Adam, again, for anybody that missed it earlier, want to talk about year 1 coming off of ACLs, and, we're already getting word out of New York that Breece Hall is going to be limited today.
Yeah. So if anyone missed it earlier in the show, running backs coming off an ACL tear in year 1, across the board, see decrease in efficiency. The running backs that have been able to do really well do so with a healthy workload, as in they get a lot of carries, or there's also some research based on some of the stuff that I looked at, have a healthy target share. I think Breece Hall maybe fits that profile, but I want to see it first. Week 1, they've already talked about having him on somewhat of a snap count, using a committee even a little bit with Michael Carter. Obviously, Dalvin Cook's going to be heavily involved. So I think with all that in mind, even though I talked about earlier, I really
league. So even if he is getting the pass catching work, it's not quite as valuable.
That's an excellent point. Yeah, I kind of overlooked that. I would, based on that, then I think that pretty much locked it up that I'd be benching Breece Hall.
Yeah, and A.J. Dillon probably doesn't have the ceiling of the other guys, but I think especially in standard, he's going to get some carries. So A.J. Dillon and Breece Hall are close for me, but I would bench Breece given the scoring here. Good morning from, I don't know who Barry is, but he's saying good morning, Barry. Cecil was saying he expects it to be 40-40-20 Javonte, Pirine, and McLaughlin as the season goes on, with Pirine getting the high-value carries. Pirine, he's built like a middle linebacker, like 240 pounds, so it makes sense that we could see him at the goal line. Thanks for that little nugget there. Standard, Mike Williams or Amari Cooper. My opponent has Justin Herbert. I've got Mike Williams steamed way up my rankings. I think Quentin Johnson can kind of come on as the season goes on, but it sounds like he's kind of been a little slow getting up to speed. I do have the slight edge to Amari Cooper this week, though. Alfredo, who do you prefer out of these 2?
Yeah, I've got the slight edge to Amari Cooper as well. I think that the Cincinnati-Cleveland game could be as much of a shootout as the Miami-Los Angeles game. And if we're going to just if we're going to slice this down between these 2 guys, I'm looking at Amari Cooper, who is the actual lead receiver for his team. Whereas Mike Williams, we start to mention, I do have him as a top 24 wide receiver, but we start to mention all these other names, Keenan Allen, you're talking about Austin Eckler still getting involved, Joshua Palmer, Gerald Everett, Quentin Johnston. Like, there's only so many footballs. While I think Mike Williams is going to make those big splash plays, I'm concerned that maybe the volume won't be there that we want to see.
Yep. T. Higgins or Drake London. I'd be surprised if we aren't all in agreement on this one.
You want to do it on 3?
1, 2, 3.
T. Higgins.
There we go.
Hey, we're working on it. All right.
We know whose internet is delayed.
We'll practice a little bit over the week. Darren Waller or Isaiah Likely? 1, 2, 3. Darren Waller. I think we have talked about this tight end landscape a little bit. We all like Darren Waller here. PPR, Javonte or Dalvin. This is another one, I think, based on the discussions we've had so far, that we are all leaning towards Dalvin Cook here. Half-point PPR start 2, Jahan Dotson, Terry McLaurin, Brandon Ayuk, Jordan Addison, Ezekiel Elliott, or Jalen Warren. We can only pick 2 out of this bunch. Alfredo, by process of elimination, I know we both have Jahan Dotson ahead of McLaurin, so McLaurin's out of the picture.
Yeah. I'm not starting either of the running backs either, just because so much is going to get left to whether they get a touchdown or not. So really it comes down to Dotson, Ayuk, or Addison. And I've got Ayuk and Dotson ranked ahead of Addison. Yes, I do. I have Ayuk and Dotson ranked ahead of him.
So Dotson and Ayuk, that's where I'm at as well. Anthony Richardson or Dak, 6-point passing touchdowns is important because that does lower the value of these rushing quarterbacks just a little bit. I prefer Dak Prescott here. How about you two?
Same, Dak.
All righty. Scrolling through here, Pat Freiermuth, Luke Musgrave, or Isaiah Likely. This is tough. I think Musgrave is the odd man out, but I have Pat Freiermuth and Isaiah Likely back-to-back in my rankings. I think Freiermuth's probably the safer play. Likely's probably the riskier, high-ceiling play. Alfredo, who are you picking?
You couldn't have said it better, Dave. That's it. If you feel like you already have a commanding lead, or that you're going to have a commanding lead in your matchup, you want to stay comfortable, Freiermuth. If you need the high upside, like I'm projected to lose by 30 points, Isaiah Likely.
So here's another one here: Breece Hall, Dalvin Cook, or Samaje Perine. We've all talked about how we expect Dalvin Cook to be pretty, getting a decent amount of touches today. But Breece Hall or Samaje Perine? I'm leaning towards Perine here. What about you two?
So we need 2 here. I'm going to lean Dalvin Cook and Perine, with Breece as the odd man out.
Yep. Now let's say we'll assume this is half PPR or PPR, but if this is standard, does it change it for you at all? Would you put Breece Hall? No. All right. Cool.
Nope.
Just wanted to throw
Nothing
it out
changes.
There. All right, full PPR, DeAndre Swift, Breece Hall, or Tyler Algier. I think this is one of the first times today that I'm going to recommend starting DeAndre Swift. I don't really want to start any of these Eagles, but out of that group, I think this is where I would.
Yeah, he's a fun start today. I'm not going to lie. Like there's something that's very exciting about starting him. Like we haven't had a lot of talk about DeAndre Swift, and I mean, he's the top Eagles running back for me. He'd be top out of this group of 3 here. And going up against New England, I think that's a game where we could see it be very one-sided, and the Eagles just end up running the clock out as best as they can. And you could probably see 2 to 3 running backs, and the Eagles have themselves a good game. But DeAndre Swift is the one that has that breakaway speed, the explosive play, the dynamic type of talent that you want to see.
Rashad Penny.
Okay.
Next question here. Have PPR flex Marquise Brown or James Cook?
Cook.
Yeah, I'm going Cook here as well, but
Same.
I don't dislike Marquise Brown here. That's a tough one, but I'd lean ever so slightly to James Cook. Zay Flowers or Antonio Gibson? I prefer Zay Flowers here.
Yep, Zay.
Same.
Alrighty. Full PPR, Kenneth Walker, Breece Hall, Quentin Johnston, or Elijah Moore?
First of all, this is disrespectful. Kenneth Walker. What? Yes. One of these things is not like the other.
I get the question because Kenneth Walker was on the injury report with a groin. If Kenneth Walker wasn't on the injury report, this wouldn't even be a question. So let's throw it to our injury expert here. Adam, does this groin concern you enough to move Walker below any of these guys?
Short and sweet, no, it does not. Yep, I'd be playing Kenneth Walker if I had him.
Michael Pittman or Khalil Herbert? This is definitely... We need more information here. I think in PPR, I'd prefer Pittman. In standard or half PPR, I'd prefer Khalil Herbert. Alfredo, what do you think? I know you're a big Khalil Herbert guy.
I think I'm leaning Khalil Herbert regardless of format here because of the volatility for Michael Pittman, he could have a 1-catch, 3-yard performance today. It's such a wild card of what we're going to get from Anthony Richardson. Khalil Herbert, we know he's going to get some touches. It's just a matter of, is he going to break one for a touchdown? Is he going to get a couple of catches here and there? But we know he's going to get the touches. He's going to get a lot more opportunity to create yardage than Michael Pittman will.
Yep. Fair there. Adam, I'm going to throw this question to you. I need to cut somebody to pick up a tight end. Should I cut Zamir White or Tajay Spears? So I guess the question is, do you expect Josh Jacobs or Derrick Henry to get injured? Who has a higher likelihood this year? If that's something we could even predict, but neither of these guys I don't think are going to have much standalone value. So if you're stashing Zamir White or Tajay Spears, you're probably expecting one of these guys to get injured. Is that something you could even try to predict, Adam?
I mean, we could probably have a whole separate show on the Twitter debates that have gone on about running back touches and thresholds and injury rate and things like that. I think I have more confidence in Josh Jacobs. So this one is actually really, really tough. The Tajay Spears thing is always interesting too, because I mean, I'm sure as most people know, he's only got one ACL. He doesn't have ACL
Right.
in one leg. He looked explosive. I'd probably cut
White, I think.
Yeah. I'm okay with it. I try not to sit on the fence. I think I'm sitting on the fence here. I could go either way. I'm fine with either.
I just don't know if we see, even if Derrick Henry gets hurt, I don't know if we see Tajay Spears go into a full, 20 touch per game type of role where Zamir White is built for that. So I think that the contingency upside for Zamir White is a little bit higher. I'd cut Spears, but it's a tough one. Dameon Pierce or James Cook. I had a consensus on both of these guys this week, but I prefer Dameon Pierce. What about you, Alfredo?
First of all, I have to point out that the name is Waffles, but the avatar is Pancakes, which is just very confusing. Secondly, yeah, I'm going Dameon Pierce over James Cook here by a good margin. And I might be wrong on that, but Dameon Pierce, this is the guy we're talking about who's going to be getting that volume. We've talked about this a couple times, that I think that this Texans-Ravens game is going to be a lot more run heavy than we think. Whereas we do not know how this Buffalo Bills backfield is going to shake out. We already saw Damian Harris coming in, taking away the goal line touches. We really don't know how much Josh Allen is going to pass to James Cook. So, yeah, I still lean Dameon Pierce. Also, Waffles, don't feel bad about starting Jahmyr Gibbs, man. It's going to happen. It's going to happen.
It was a good start. The process was right.
He looked phenomenal.
Electric. He looked so good. Now, before we get to the next question, everybody, quick moment of silence. Rashad Penny was a healthy scratch today.
Dave.
I'm livid.
Dave.
I'm livid. I'm trying to hold it in right now, but I want to explode.
Start DeAndre Swift.
Next question. DeAndre Swift, Deion Jackson, or Breece Hall? Yuck,
Swifty, baby.
Yuck. Yeah. I
Get Swifty.
Swift is moving up my rankings quickly. All right.
Honestly, out of those two, though, because it said he needs two, I'm going DeAndre Swift and Deion Jackson over Breece Hall.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
That's not a question. DJ Moore or Khalil Herbert? Come on. DJ Moore easily. Did you watch this man in the preseason? This isn't even a question for me. I'm going DJ Moore easily. I don't care if it's standard, PPR. I don't care if it's 0.1 points per carry. I'm still going DJ Moore.
Yeah, I'll go DJ Moore as well. But Dave, careful, man. Famous last words. Did you see him in the preseason?
I mean, did you see him the last 5 years in Carolina?
That's fair. There you go. That's
what
I want to hear.
Full PPR. Brandon Ayuk or Zay Flowers? Ayuk pretty easily for me here, even though I love me some Zay Flowers. Yeah, Zay Flowers or Marvin Mims? Two rookies with huge upside.
This one's closer. I still lean Zay Flowers, but I think Mims is still a good starter for those of you who have him elsewhere. You need a wide receiver 3 or a flex play in PPR leagues. Mims is still a good starter, but I lean Flowers.
Yep. Isaiah Likely or Tyler Higbee? This is another one of those. Are you looking for the floor or the ceiling? But still, I'd prefer Higbee in just about any scenario. He averaged 10.8 points per game last year without Cooper Kupp, I believe. Not too bad. Full PPR, Selvin Ahmed or Quentin Johnston. Both playing in the same game. Quentin Johnston, man, I'm scared off by these reports, if I'm being honest. Yep. I've got him as like wide receiver 70-something this week. I have almost no faith. I'm still happy to stash him and see what could happen, but he might not see the field too much today.
Yeah, so if you were watching the earlier start-sit show that we have here on Sunday mornings, Jeff Bell talked about how he did the offseason training camp reports for the Chargers, and then a lot of the reports coming out, Quentin Johnston could actually be the wide receiver 4 on this team. That could develop over time, and he could be the wide receiver 3, or injuries could lead to something new. But in this case, I'm actually leaning towards Savon Ahmed because of the fact that we've got no Jeff Wilson. Devon Achane is either likely to be out or ruled out already. And this is one of those Raheem Mostert's not going to get, 30 touches in this game. Savon Ahmed is going to get his opportunity against a bad Chargers defense. So I lean Ahmed, and actually pretty heavily.
So we only got about 12 minutes left here. As much as we love to kind of dive into these questions and give our reasoning, let's try to go a little more rapid fire through the rest of the show here. Next question, are Freiermuth and Njoku interchangeable? Yeah.
Yeah, I lean Freiermuth.
Yeah, I've got him at 8 and 9 in my rankings. Prefer
Wait, no, I don't. I lean in Njoku. My bad. That's how interchangeable they are.
I think this is another one of the upside versus floor. I think Freiermuth's a safer pick. Njoku probably won't see as much of a target share, but he's got the huge play upside. Morning, guys. Half PPR looking at flex. Tank Bigsby, Jaden Reed, or Gabe Davis.
If you need big play and you're projected to lose by a lot, Gabe Davis. If you just want a good floor, Jaden Reed, because he'll get some volume.
Completely agree. Adam, I see you nodding as well. Good morning. James Conner or Cortland Sutton, the safer play at flex. Man,
I want to say
Conner, like when you look at the projections, Conner looks nice on paper, but I don't know how much they're actually going to give him the ball. We might see some Keontae Ingram in there. I like Sutton.
Yeah, I'm gonna lean Sutton, especially if this is any type of point or half point per reception league. Sutton.
Yep. Darren Waller or Samaje Perine? Come on, we're playing Waller here, right?
Waller.
Mostert going off today. I mean,
well, we hope so.
He could always score from anywhere on the field, so who knows? Maybe he does have some big plays, but we will see. Which rookie are you starting in PPR? Jonathan Mingo or Marvin Mims?
I would lean Mims here because of the quarterback play being a veteran, being Russell Wilson. So Mingo, I did say he's one of those guys that might have the breakout party, and everyone goes and picks him up off waivers and never starts him again.
I wish I saw this one a little bit earlier. It says Kluge's mic is way too low. I just adjusted my gain. Am I sounding a little bit better to you, Alfredo?
Yeah, I mean, you always sound pretty awful, but this is better.
That's a smooth voice right there.
It is.
All right, we're sounding a little better. Glad to hear it. What else? Ferguson or Everett? We love Ferguson, but I think I'm probably going Everett here.
Yeah, I like Ferguson a lot. I've got Everett just a little bit ahead of him. I think like 2 spots in the tight end rankings.
Dameon Pierce or Zay Flowers?
Pierce.
Half point PPR.
Pierce.
Bingo. Pretty easily for me. Zay Flowers or DeAndre Swift?
Swift now, baby.
I think, you asked me this question 10 minutes ago. I might have said Zay Flowers, but it's,
I didn't think I would be here where I'm like fully on the DeAndre Swift train. This is weird.
Believe it. I cut Kenneth Gainwell from one of my teams this morning to pick up Isaiah Likely and kicking myself for it already. Ramondre Stevenson or Brian Robinson? We love I love Brian Robinson, but Ramondre is top 12 back for me this week.
Yeah, he was dealing with a stomach bug this week. It sounds like he's going to play, though. That's nothing injury-related or anything I have a lot of data on, so I'll be playing Ramondre.
Ramondre flu game coming in.
Yeah,
Kyle Pitts or Tyler Higbee?
Oh, that's a good one. Let me double-check the tight end rankings here. I've got Higbee ahead of Pitts.
Yeah, maybe I'm crazy, but, looking at the landscape this week, Tyler Higbee's my tight end 3. Ugh.
Probably the most disrespected tight end in the game, Tyler Higbee. I mean,
yep,
I agree.
Yeah, and especially, we saw him putting up, like I said, almost 11 points per game without Kupp last year. That wasn't just without Kupp. That was without Matthew Stafford for a big majority of that. Now he actually has a quarterback throwing him the ball where he's going to be the lead receiver. So, yeah, Tyler Higbee's my tight end 3 this week. I'm starting him over anybody not named Darren Waller or TJ Hawkinson. Khalil Herbert or Zay Flowers, half point PPR. I think we already answered this one, right?
Herbie.
Yep. Mostert or Akers? Got to go to the rankings for this one because I know they're close.
It's close, but I go Akers just because I think there's a lot more guaranteed volume there. Yep. Purdue. Wait, where did Mostert go to Purdue?
Oh yeah, baby.
Oh yeah.
The pride and joy. The pride and joy of West Lafayette. Raheem Mostert.
I should have known that.
I got them close. They're 16 and 17 for me, so I have an edge given to Akers, but splitting hairs between wide receivers 16 and 17. Be kind. Go with your gut. Brandon Ayuk or Jahan Dotson in half PPR? We're getting this question a lot. Maybe we're just sleeping on Jahan Dotson, but I have Ayuk ahead of Dotson.
Yeah, let me double check the rankings here. I've got Ayuk exactly 1 spot ahead of Dotson. I think the game script for that Washington-Arizona game is a little scary, where it could either honestly, it's weird. Like I only see 2 options here where either they're killing them and they're going to be running out the clock, or it's a close game and they're still running quite a bit. So I don't see an instance where Jahan Dotson and Terry McLaurin, there's going to be a lot of passing for the Washington Commanders this week.
Ramondre Stevenson or J.K. Dobbins. I had Dobbins ahead in my rankings this week, but this morning when that report came out about J.K. Dobbins getting eased back into his role, I slid him down a little bit, and now Ramondre has the edge.
Yep, Mondre.
This is a funny comment here. The Zay Flowers ownership in this chat room seems to be around 98%. That's because you guys listened to us in the offseason and drafted a ton of Zay Flowers. So prayers up. Let's hope that he can put it together sooner rather than later. Another Ayuk over Dotson. Oh, no, this isn't a question. This is somebody recommending what we already
just saying it.
Justin Fields or Geno Smith. I'm so happy we finally got a Justin Fields question. You already know. You already know.
You dork. Justin Fields.
Kittle or Likely for tight end, and Bateman or Brian Robinson for flex. Kittle and Likely are back-to-back, but I've got Kittle ahead, and then Brian Robinson over Bateman for me.
Yep.
What about you, Alfredo?
Same. Kittle and Robinson for me, please.
Adam? All right. All in agreement on this one.
Yep.
Kittle came off the injury report. That's exciting.
There we go.
Didn't see that. I knew that he was active, but Mike Evans or James Cook in full PPR. I don't want to galaxy brain this, and I'm hesitant to even say this because it sounds so stupid, but if they are trying to trade Mike Evans, do you think they make a concerted effort to get the ball to him as much as possible and say, look, Mike Evans is still really good. Give us a call and trade for him. Am I galaxy braining that?
I don't even think that has to be the narrative. I think that Baker Mayfield is just going to be like, if I want to keep playing football as the starter for this team, I got to get the ball to Mike Evans. They're going up against the Minnesota Vikings, who love to pass the ball a ton and can score on this Tampa Bay defense. Viking secondary, not good. Mike Evans over James Cook here in full PPR.
I'm going to pull this question up. Somebody says Waller or Gerald Everett. We're getting a lot of Waller questions.
Waller.
Basically, unless it is Waller or Hawkinson, you're going with Waller. And even if it's Hawkinson, you got a question to ask yourself. So, Waller above just about anybody.
A good alternative if you're very worried about Waller or somehow like he's a scratch like at game time. Jake Ferguson plays in the same game. He's probably somewhere on your waivers. He's a guy that you can pick up and see if you can stash and kind of hold out hope.
Going Tua over Deshaun Watson and Juwan Johnson over George Kittle. What do you think? I love the Tua over Watson. We talked about that on the show earlier in the week with Sig, but I think I'm going Kittle over Juwan Johnson here. Even though we talked about Juwan Johnson as a smash start, I still think you can't put him in over Kittle.
Yeah, I never think that fantasy start-sit decisions should be that simple, but this is one of those start your studs moments. It's week one. Let's not overthink week one.
Yeah, I'm completely with you there. Juwan Johnson or Luke Musgrave. This is one where I would start Juwan Johnson.
Juwan Johnson. Yep.
All right, we're getting a lot of chatter in here, not as many questions, so I'm trying to find them. Rashad White or Khalil Herbert in full PPR. This is one where I think the scoring does make a big difference. In standard, I prefer Herbert. In PPR, I think I absolutely prefer Rashad White.
Yeah, it's close. I do have Herbert a bit higher than consensus. I've got Herbert at running back 27. I've got Rashad White at running back 24. So if it's full PPR, I'll lean Rashad White.
All right, Alfredo. Looks like you and Sig are going to have to fight for the mayor or narrative mayor of Narrative Street.
Yeah, I'm not. Wait, hold on.
There's nothing wrong with narrative. We talked about this on Wednesday with Sig that leaning into narratives isn't a bad thing that people make it out to be.
No, what I was going to say is I don't think they let people be mayor of a street. You have to be a whole, it has to at least be a whole city or town. You don't get to be mayor of like a mile of just road.
Yeah, mayor of Narrative Town. I like it.
There we go.
Would you start DeAndre Hopkins or Mike Evans? Finally, this is the first Hopkins question we've had all day. Hopkins easily. Yeah,
I actually really
mover.
Yeah, I really like DeAndre Hopkins. You talk about quarterbacks that need to hold on to like just gravitate towards one receiver. Ryan Tannehill has done that his entire career. You're hearing it from a Dolphins fan who watched him for years. He is going to target Hopkins early and often.
Yeah, there is a 12-player chasm in my rankings that easily prefer DeAndre Hopkins. Only got about 2 minutes left here, so let's try to rapid fire through these. McLaurin or Godwin?
Godwin.
All right. Kittle or Likely? We already talked about this one. We're going George Kittle. News on Darren Waller's hamstring. He's going to be fine.
He has two of them.
Alfredo, show us. What are you hiding under your hat?
Just awful hair.
Just a hair.
That's it.
Just morning.
Awful
Send
hair.
some of that my way, dude. What
just
the
awful hair.
Cortland Sutton or Christian Kirk? I'm going Kirk here.
It's close. I'm going Kirk though still.
London, Sutton, or Pickens?
Oh, I'm London. Drake London by a wee bit.
Here's a good one. McLaurin or Dotson? We talked about this earlier on the show.
Dotson.
Alfredo, you and I both prefer Dotson. We still prefer Dotson. Nothing to change here. Garrett Wilson or Travis Etienne? Garrett Wilson. I mean, Garrett Wilson. I don't know. There aren't many people I'm benching.
Yep. Garrett Wilson. Also, Prancing Cat over Lightning Bear Joey.
Breece Hall or Tyler Lockett? Lockett for me.
Lockett.
Agreed.
Lock it in.
Breece Hall or D-Hop?
D-Hop.
D-Hop.
Yeah. Yep.
Madison or London in PPR? This is a tough one.
I like Madison this week. I like Madison quite a bit. He's my running back 14 in the week. So
also,
I'm
one of the
leaning
concerns with Madison was that Myles Gaskin was going to take over the passing down work, and Myles Gaskin was cut. So yeah,
I do believe
Madison,
he's back on the roster or going to get put back on the roster. That the cut was a formality. What I read after that, so it was
elevated.
Yeah, one of those things. But even so, like Madison should be getting the bulk of the carries and the catches today out of that backfield.
All right, guys, we are out of time here. Looking to see if there are any other questions that we haven't really covered yet. Oh, Rashad Penny or Jaylen Warren?
Not Rashad Penny.
I had a good answer for you later.
Not him.
Well, anyway, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Games kick off in just a half hour. We are thrilled. My stomach's in knots. I'm going to go pound some breakfast and tinker with my rankings before this game officially kicks off. Be sure to follow or subscribe at youtube.com/footballguys. Like this video so some other people can find it. Alfredo, before we log off, let everyone know where they can find you on social media.
Yep, you can find me on all forms of social media at @thepretendgm.
Adam, let everyone know where they can find you.
Find me on Twitter at @therealadam_each. Make sure you're heading over to Football Guys. We're going to have injury report coming out Monday.
Yep, staying busy out here. And you can find me on Twitter at Dave Kalugi. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you next Sunday at 11:35 a.m. I forget most people aren't on
East Coast, baby.
Time.
The
East
only
Coast,
time zone.
Absolutely. But then be sure to tune in even an hour earlier when we got Joey Wright, Jagger May, and Devin Knotts bringing you even more start-sit content. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.